You want to know what the biggest lesson is that I've learned when working with and learning about human design? It's that human design isn't just a one time revelation, it's an ongoing journey of continuous self discovery. And that's exactly why I created the Human Design Guidebook. I wanted to provide you with a trusted resource, something you could return to again and again as you explore different aspects of your unique design. Inside, I've broken down the essential elements of your chart into clear, actionable guidance that helps you make decisions that actually feel right for you. Each guidebook is custom created to your specific chart, walking you through your energy type, strategy, authority, profile, all your channels, all your gates, and a lot more. All of this delivered to your inbox in a downloadable PDF format within 3 to 5 days. No more overwhelm, no more staring at your chart feeling lost, just simple guidance to understanding your unique energy and how to align with it. If you're ready to stop second guessing and start living according to your true nature, head on over to humandesignhive.com/guidebook to grab your copy. And as a special thank you for being a listener, use code POD10, that's POD10, at checkout to receive 10% off your purchase. Trust me, you won't regret it. Okay, now let's get on with the show. So there's lots of things that go into what attracts you to someone. There's, of course, we're talking energetics, but there's just like, there's the chemistry, they call it. There's all kinds of things, but really it's interesting to see how, as you do get into relationship with people, really what am I here to learn from this person? And how can we strengthen the relationship if we want to, or how can we get past certain hurdles in our relationship or learn how to navigate them? Human Design reveals who you are energetically and who you came here to be. I'm Dana, your Human Design guide.
And I'm Haley, on this journey with you to uncover the power of human design.
Together, we're here to explore how embracing your authentic self is the ultimate path to a life of more freedom and fulfillment.
Welcome to the Human Design Hive podcast. Let's get into it.
Well, hello there, Haley. How are you?
Hi, good.
Good. It's good to see you smiling.
Yes.
I mean, you're always usually smiling.
Yeah.
I mean, not always. I was just thinking how many times your face is caught in a
Scowl.
Yeah. We have a little resting bitch face in the family.
Yeah. I don't.
Which
I express with my face quite often, and I don't realize it.
you do. We have a few examples of that on my picture frame that I cycle through, and I see all the pictures of you, and I'm like, there's my beautiful girl. There's this one picture of you that goes through in the picture frame you got me for Christmas that goes through all the pictures, and it's the one from you're like maybe 4 years old, 3 or 4 years old, and you're at grandma's house and you were eating pancakes, I think. And she caught you with pancake stuffed mouth in your face, and it was just like,
I am shooting daggers in that face.
You are. You're so cute. You're just the cutest little thing, but you're just like, I'm eating pancakes. Leave me alone.
What do you want?
You can't have my pancake. That's all right. No big deal. Anyways, well, let's see. It's February. We've been starting off strong. We've been talking about really the quarter of initiation that we're in and planting the seeds of what we want to have happen. And we were talking about the energies and blah, blah, blah. But you know what everybody talks about in November, in February, we talk a lot about love, don't we? We talk a lot about Valentine's Day, which earlier today, I went and helped out at the flower shop, even though I don't work there all the time. I go in and help. I do a little paperwork for her, she calls it. It's not much paperwork. It's just entering a few receipts for her. Next week is Valentine's week, and I will be helping out there next week because it gets a little busy, a little crazy, the flower shop.
Yeah. I've been there.
And so definitely it's starting to get on everybody's mind, which what are your thoughts on Valentine's Day? Like it, don't
It's
like it, ambivalent?
it's a bit overrated.
I think so too.
First of all, it's a made up holiday by um, capitalism, so
Mhm.
that's a solid start. And I think it has so much pressure to it,
Mhm.
and it
I
doesn't need to.
I agree, and like I said, in the floral world, you see that a lot. It's quite telling. The I was thinking about somebody that ordered something today and very showy. He's always very showy. He's a customer that would come back year after year and
Hmm.
nice guy, real nice guy, but um I just wonder sometimes because I think, "Oh, if you gotta put so much effort in that one day," your dad and I would always be like, amateur hour, you call it, whatever, but some people really like the ceremony of it, or they
Hmm.
want a reason for it to feel special or whatever, but I also say if you ever gave me a freaking balloon
Oh
or a
gosh.
stuffed animal on Valentine's Day, I'm like, "Hello, I am a grown woman. Why would I want a stuffed animal and a balloon?" But there are people that do it because they're like, "Oh, flowers aren't enough. What else you got? What else you got? I need to throw this at it." I'm like, "What did you do? Or what do you
Yeah,
not normally do for this woman?
I know.
Or what does she expect from you?" Which would be a good segue into kind of what we're going to be talking about
Hmm. Hmm.
today in relationships,
Yes.
um, about what influences, but what influences you and how you interact in relationships. But when when I'm observing these people's interactions and relationships and having to go all out for this one day, I think, I mean, I question, not question like they're ingenuous. I think they are
Hmm.
being genuine, but um, I don't know, you get very curious about people's relationships and how they normally are. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you ever
No, I
get
can. Oh yeah, I do, and I can see why that would interest you particularly, and me too, because like neither one of our relationships are with our partners like super gift giving, like none of that. So it's like
no?
that's not the norm for either one of us. So then to
Yeah.
see it, you're like, what is this?
Have you ever done that love languages? Have you ever heard about that or talked about that?
Yes, we've done some kind of report that incorporated that. And
Mhm.
I think mine is, I think quality time was my
Mhm.
love language. And I think it was Presley's too.
Yeah.
And I think touch was second for mine. And his is like nowhere. He doesn't. I'm trying to hold his hand. He's like, what do you want?
Yeah, I don't think that would be mine either. Probably be your dad. I'll be like, "Do you have to sit so close to me? Like, we got this big couch. What are you doing?" But, so yes, he would probably like to cuddle a little more, but I think mine was more like, um, acts I don't know if it's acts of service or gestures or
Oh, that
something
was
like
high on
that.
mine too. Yeah, it's like acts of
Yeah.
service. That's high on mine.
Yeah,
That's
when somebody
yeah.
'cause I think talk is cheap. It was definitely not words. I mean, it's nice to hear words, but luckily it's not mine because your dad is not good. He's not good with the words. He
No.
can be when he doesn't try, he
Mhm.
gets his point across, but he definitely shows that he cares in lots of other ways. He does see like
Mhm.
today he said the since we're over 50 now, we're just fascinated by birds. Like it's apparently a thing. And it's so true. But,
Mhm.
he's got these trays out back, bird feeders, and
Mhm.
oh my god, there's so many cute little birds in our backyard, and this morning I noticed there was one right off the porch that he had left one of these trays full of birdseed on this cart, and there's a squirrel, and the squirrel was kinda, like,
Making a
flexing on
mess?
no, every bird that would come up, he's like, he's flexing, like, "Get away from a seed," and, of course, your dad hates that because he really dislikes squirrels. I love them. Um,
Mhm.
but so I went out there to spread some seed around for the other birds, and I was telling him about being outside when I saw him a little bit later. He's like, "Well, did you look out your window?" And I said, "No," because out the office window, he put up a hummingbird feeder, which I
Mhm.
never see them. I've seen like 2 or 3. Um, but he's like, "I put a bird feeder outside your window." And I
Aw.
said, "Where?" And I came in the office, he goes, "No, your bedroom window." And I was like,
Aw.
and sure enough, because there used to be a garden space there, well, it's kind of a garden space, but yeah, he found this, he got this old bird feeder when he was at the recycling junkyard the other day. I thought he was gonna make a light out of it like he does for
Mhm.
his outdoor
Mhm.
stuff, but he filled it full of birdseed. There was all these little birdies in there, and
Aw.
they're right outside my window, and I was like,
Aw.
"Oh, that's so
Lily
cute."
like that too.
That's what he said. He said, "I figured Lily would like to get in the window and watch them."
Aw.
So that's sweet. That's a real
Yeah.
what, how long? Let's see, we've been together going on this year will be like we met in 1990, I think.
So that would
Yes.
be
Because I moved down here
35.
in 89. I met him the following year. Yes, so 1990. So yeah,
You mean when you
35 years.
stalked him?
Yeah, when I stalked him. Yeah, solidly. But
35.
35 years. And I'm only 54. So spent a lot of time with that person.
Mhm.
But anyways, how do we get so we're talking about love languages. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
knowing how your partner wants to communicate or whatever. And
Mhm.
so we thought, not me, we thought we were bouncing around ideas and we came across the one that was like, what is influencing you? What was to say?
Mhm.
We were saying like, what is influencing you in your relationship? Or because really what I think is as humans, we can definitely, or as people, I mean, I don't want to say as humans, but that was a weird way to phrase that.
I think humans
Um,
was perfectly fine.
but it's not what I meant.
Okay.
I meant to say in human design. So in human design, we can like look at a lot of things as far as how you influence each other in a relationship and even what could attract you and everything. But it's important off the bat to say that as human beings, we're always seeking out from the other what we are not. It's like
Mhm.
we are attracted to things that are different from us in a way, which is also this that genetic imperative we've talked about before as far as like successful mating and breeding.
Mhm.
Basically, you don't want the
The saying,
DNA
it gets
that's
a
too
little
close to
hairy.
yours. Yeah, it's not good.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it's important to keep that in mind because a lot of times we end up or we may have been in relationships that weren't exactly or didn't work out the way you wanted them to. But I believe that all relationships were meant in some form. If you met someone, no matter how deep it went, you were meant to meet this person because
Mhm.
if we could look at our energetics even, we would see that we were always going to have something we're going to learn from someone generally in some way because what human design can show us is how we're wired, our energetic makeup. It shows us where we might find uh, an attraction to certain traits because of us trying to complete like bridges in our circuitry to kind of how we wherever we're undefined, if we have hanging gates, we come into contact with other people, not necessarily even romantically, just other people
Mhm.
that we can then give us a if it creates a connection there, electromagnetic connection, that can give us definition, especially if it is something that is getting energy to the throat that is
Mhm.
very magnetically attractive, right? We're usually drawn
Mhm.
to that. Like I have in my chart, which is called well, I have a split definition. You do too. You have a large split definition because you have head and ajna defined, and
Mhm.
then you have root and spleen defined. So it takes a lot of energy, a lot of
Yes, it
connections
does. Yes,
to
it does.
to get those centers. Yeah, you'd basically have to be at a concert or something. I don't know during a transit.
I need a
know?
large mass of people to help.
That's right. You need a little more help. Um, but for me, I have what's called a small split, and there's just really gate one or gate 16 or gate 20. Any one of those three gates that I come in contact with someone, it would give me that. Uh, well, for one, it would get energy to my throat, and it would create like a single definition. So I would feel a lot more kind of firing on all cylinders kind of thing. But so there's lots of things that go into what attracts you to someone.
Mhm,
There's, of course, we're talking energetics, but there's just like the chemistry they call it. There's all kinds of things, you know.
mhm,
But human design is a good place to look at where um, it may have drawn you together, but really it's interesting to see how, as you do get into relationship with people, you know, really what am I here to learn from this person, and how can we strengthen the relationship if we want to, or how can we
mhm,
get past certain hurdles in our relationship or learn how to navigate them. Because I think when we were putting this together, we were talking about some of the biggest issues usually in relationships. I mean, what do you think the one is? Number one
mm.
one is.
Communication?
I would think it'd have to be, yeah. It listed some other things. It was interesting because it was a more current article, but it was talking about our online lives now and our
Mm,
technology and our
mhm,
phones that apparently that causes problems in relationships. Well, attention for one thing,
yeah,
but I think also people might get jealous, or they might be um, suspicious of their partner, which I've always said your dad and I were always just like couples that got jealous of each other. We were always like, there's something wrong in that relationship.
mhm,
But I mean, that's my thought.
yeah,
Is yeah, if you are a really jealous person, you got to take a look at that because I feel like if you're in a strong relationship, the jealousy is just not there. I mean, I
yeah.
don't.
I mean,
Mm,
I've never felt jealous, like, I've never not trusted Presley, like, when he's gone out with
mm-mm,
his buddies and been out and closed down the bar, like, in college, I
mm-hmm.
was never, like I don't know, I always just trusted him, and I never he never gave me a reason not to.
Exactly. Yeah, your dad didn't either. So, yeah, there's lots of things that can influence like how you are showing up in a relationship, and depending on if you like how you're showing up or not, make adjustments. However, it's important to note that when we're talking about relationships and improving relationships through human design, which is certainly possible, it is not you fixing your partner. It's not you looking at their design and going, "Oh, I see what he's doing. I'm going to fix that." That's not possible. Like, that's not how it goes, because that's just
Mhm.
not just in human design, just not in life. You don't get to do that,
That
right?
pretty much never goes well.
No, and it's impossible. You can't make other people do or be what you want them to be just because you want to.
Mhm,
And that is a hard lesson for a lot of people to learn, but it's absolutely true. But they you can influence them and help create change in them if they're willing, just by changing yourself or modifying how you interact with them. Because um, that was something that took me a while to learn, and it's a practice, but it's absolutely true. If you change yourself or how you react to things, especially in the relationship, then um, it's just going to shift the energy. And I know we've talked about it before that even though we had a good relationship before, your dad and I, like, there's a lot less angst on my part because
mhm.
he's not looking at human design. He doesn't give two shits about any of it. He's just like, okay, glad you have your thing. I mean, I mentioned human design, and your dad, or not, your dad will be like, mm-hmm. Your brother just rolls his eyes at me.
He's
But
so rude.
yeah, whatever. It's all right. I know his design. I know how to handle him too. But
I like that, like, kind of mild threat. You're like, "I know how to handle you."
I know, I got your number. It's 3-5. I know. No, I was kind of going against what I just said, but no,
Yeah.
not really. But I know that some of the things I said that used to be things that I would get so triggered by your dad and the way he moved through life.
Mhm.
And I used to feel a lot more, I used to take it a lot more personally because I felt like um, his just like maybe not letting me know something ahead of time, or just kind of like we talked about, just disappearing, or
Mhm.
being just kind of focused in this direction, or not finishing things he starts, like all these things that used to bug me so much. Once I saw his design as a manifesting generator, unconscious 3420 connection, and he's 1-3, it's just like, oh, so much of it made sense, and
Mhm.
it was easier for me to I mean, I just started having such a much more compassionate view of how he moved through life,
Mhm.
because I could see that the things that annoyed me were actually some of his, I want to say greatest gifts, but in a way they are,
Most
because he's a
defining.
he's a manifesting generator, and that's part of his path and this is his way of doing things, but it is also part of his genius. Like, he is somebody
Mhm.
that really does think outside the box and is willing to try things and do things.
Mhm.
And we all know, and it would annoy all of us in the family, he'd watch us do something. He's like, well, you know what I would do? And we're like,
You're
because
like, "I
he's like,
wouldn't do it that way," and you're
or
like,
I don't do it
"Oh."
like that. He's always like trying to tell us how he does it, or how, but it's because for him, I mean, it can still ring my bell a little bit sometimes. It
Mhm.
still kind of annoy me. But from his point of view, what he's doing is like, he thinks he's helping because he thinks he's showing you a better, more efficient way to do things.
Mhm.
And that is what manifesting generators are here to do, right? That's
Mhm.
part of their gift to us. So,
It's kind of funny.
mhm.
I do some of that same thing. I do.
What do you mean?
Like, oh, Presley will be doing something, and I was like, "Oh, I normally do it like this," and he'll be like, "I didn't ask for that." And I'm like, "Okay."
True, true enough. Whereas it is a different dynamic there because you're coming from a different place. You're not a manifesting generator.
Mhm.
You are a projector,
Yep.
offering with the channel of judgment, offering her unsolicited opinion.
Yeah. He has he has actually said that to me. He's like, "Nobody likes unsolicited advice." And I'm like, "Right in the heart."
His delivery could be better.
Hey, we've talked about it.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, and that's one of the things you were saying. Let's talk about these influences here, because the dynamic with you two is you're a
Mhm,
projector, you're a 6-2 projector. He's a 1-3 sacral generator.
mhm,
And there's lots of things that go into that. But one thing I wanted to point out real quick is that you
mhm,
don't pick a mate depending on their human design. You
mhm,
you do it the normal way, the natural way. You find someone, you're attracted to them, get into a relationship with them. That's the way it should be. However, if you want to, I think personally, this is where I stand now. I think you should really have your shit figured out to a certain degree before you do start going to look for these relationships. If that's your
mhm,
goal, is to find a relationship, it always helps to know what your motivating factors are,
mm,
where, and to make sure that you are from a place that is a little more balanced and
mhm.
centered. Because if you enter into a relationship as a hot mess, well, it's going to be a hot mess relationship, probably.
Probably not gonna be good for anyone.
Well, because at your core, you're not a hot mess. You've got your own strong suits. But how do we make sure we don't do that? Well, for one thing, it's the most basic thing in human design, but it's the thing we just got to keep remembering over and over again. If you want to make sure you are not entering in, if you want to prevent yourself from entering into the wrong kinds of relationships or with the wrong people, I don't know if wrong people is even the right thing to say, following your strategy and authority.
Mhm,
It's not
mhm,
just for little things. Remember, we talk about big things are relationships. That's one of the things,
mhm,
right? So that means if you are a generator or a manifesting generator, was it, were you following your sacral response when you decided to interact with this person? And did you continue to follow that response? Likewise, if you're an emotional authority with that type of strategy, with that type, don't jump into it necessarily.
mhm,
Give it some time, right?
mhm.
I did both. I mean, nobody nobody had to ask me if I was into your dad. I saw your dad. My secretary was like, "Yeah, hello, ding, ding, ding."
But you did kind of then sit on it.
Yes, I did for quite some time because it was a good thing too because I was with my boyfriend the first time I saw your dad. And then I saw him, and then I said, "Oh yeah, I am in the wrong relationship."
I hope that guy's doing well.
Oh, I'm sure he did fine. He was a very nice, very handsome young man, but he was military. I'm not military kind of
Mm-mm.
gal, um but yeah, he was just visiting for the weekend and we were at a seeing a live show and my my boyfriend, uh was not into it. He was just not digging it, but saw a guy across the room was and I was like, "Damn, he's fine." I was the wrong person. But yeah, and then I did for several weeks after that. Did not meet your dad that night. But every
Mhm.
time we did see him, go on the weekend and he would always be there. And the sacral was always like, yeah. And so it was always a yes. But yeah, we did take our time meeting each other.
Mhm.
Just I mean, this can be a little uncomfortable talking to your daughter, but you're grown now. But
Mhm.
we do both have the 59.6 channel. So there's a good physical attraction and it was always there. So let's just say that. But anyway, so make sure that you are not trying to initiate, let's say maybe you're trying to make it work. There's a type of person in your head that you think would be the kind of person. Like a lot of people do that. So they're
Mhm.
like, they make this list of who they think they would be or what their ideal mate would have, right? And how many people
Mhm.
make these ideal mate lists and they may find that person and it's just not what
Not
they
at all
thought.
what they thought.
Not what they thought, or
Mhm.
not as fulfilling or whatever, because people can check boxes, but nature, universe has its own plan, I think, for who is going to be drawn together. And in the Course in Miracles, it talks about relationships all the time. Everything is a relationship with
Yeah.
yourself, your work, other people, God, the planet, everything is a relationship. And it always says that even the smallest encounter or relationship, it would call it, would be even just like meeting someone in an elevator. As I said, you were intended to meet that person. And
Mhm.
where the miracles it talks about is, not like the walking on water miracles. It's in that moment when people meet and when they are either in relationship for just a few moments, short term, long term curriculums like families, those kind of things that you came in here to learn these lifelong lessons with, or marriages or friendships. There was a reason for you to come into contact with this person. And human
Mhm.
design can show that so clearly too as to where you can learn from each other. So you want to make sure that you are allowing these moments to happen. And I feel like you can take the pressure off yourself if you're following your strategy and authority of just being open to what
Mhm.
comes your way. And then, of course, you as a projector, just think about how you and Presley met. Invitations,
Mhm.
good for a projector, and you're a
Mhm.
splenic projector.
Yes. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
You met on the
We met
Tinder.
on Tinder.
Hmm.
And it's very funny because I almost didn't swipe whatever direction it was.
I
I almost
never I
didn't.
never got to use Tinder, so I'm like
I
swiping
don't
left or
remember which
right. I
way.
don't
I don't remember which way.
which is the good way. I don't know.
I don't know. But I literally, because like his picture was just, he didn't, that picture does not look like him. Even when I
Mhm.
met him, like didn't look like him. Then it was like really grainy and he's holding up a fish. And it's like,
Yeah, I know that picture.
Yes, it's like it's so not what I had like it's so not what I had kind of thought of.
Mhm.
And I literally like sat on it and I almost swiped and then I the wrong way and then I finally was like, "Oh, what the
Is
hell?
it
I'll
just a
swipe the right way."
picture? So you just see a picture or a name,
Well,
or do
it's
you
like it's a
is there
several
any kind of
pictures.
profile or, like,
Yeah,
any
you
kind
can
of
put like a
information?
bio, I think. I think nowadays there's a ton more.
Mhm.
Cause let's see, I met him 10 years ago, which is wild.
That is wild.
But so we met on Tinder and then it was kind of instantaneous. Like, well, we met on Tinder and then he ghosted me for 3 days, which was very rude. But then it was like we were texting and Snapchatting and like we eventually would FaceTime and all of this. And
So
then
wait, does he say why he, quote, unquote, "ghosted" you for 3 days? Did he ever
cuz
tell you?
oh, yeah, because he like deactivated his Facebook and his Facebook was connected to Tinder and so like that's why he ghosted me for 3 days and I was like, okay, whatever. But uh so then we finally met. He came up and I met him in college. Full transparency, I was at least an hour late to meet him. And not my smartest move because I had FaceTime him, so I knew he was real. But
Mhm.
I met him in the Walmart parking lot near campus, and it's like dark out. So it's really not my smartest idea ever.
No.
But then our
Did
first
anybody
date
kn
was cookout.
but did somebody know where you were going?
I probably told Mal or someone,
Well, it all
maybe
worked out,
Carson. I don't
luckily.
remember. Yeah, it worked out. Then we went. Our first date was cookout, so
Mhm.
that was fun. But I think why it worked so well is like we had a couple times where I went down to visit, he came up to visit, but he actually asked me to be his girlfriend. It wasn't
Oh.
just like an assumption. He actually asked me, and I
Mm.
was thinking of it now. It's like that was
He
exactly what I needed.
he invited you in.
Hmm.
He extended the invitation. Well, that's
Yeah.
sweet. Well, he's a good Southern boy, I guess. A real Southern gentleman. Not a
Yeah.
fake one. Um, that's an inside joke.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I was thinking about the whole Tinder thing, the swiping, but also as a projector to be recognized in a literal way. Like when we're
Hmm.
talking about recognition and invitation, it's usually a little bit more, involved in that. It's about who you're going to work with or who you're going to be in a relationship with, like where your energy is going to be honored and valued
Hmm.
for the energy you bring to the table. And of course, you guys didn't know any of this stuff
Nope.
at the time. And then for him, I'm sure it was the sacral thing as well. Like like I said, he's a pyramid sacral generator, I should say. So that is his authority, is his sacral
Hmm.
response. And he's very good at using it.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's very little doubt. A lot of times he just seems to like act, he knows right away. Um,
Hmm.
and so that's a good way for you to have entered into that relationship. So for projectors, usually you're not the one initiating the relationship. You should not be initiating the relationship. You could have done the same thing, honestly, if he hadn't maybe moved in that direction fast enough for you. You could have, hey, I would like to ask you something. What you would ask him a yes or no question, but it would be
Hmm.
like inviting him in. Would he be interested in pursuing a more formal relationship kind of thing? But so that's something to consider for projectors, is to remember that the more, I don't want to say like hiding, you're also aligned too, but the idea of projector is not to be chasing and going after anyone,
Hmm.
or a manifester, the non-sacral type. It's not to be going out and chasing and trying to get the attention. It is to allow others to see um what you bring to the table.
Hmm. It's
And
you got to be like standing
mhm,
in your own uh expression's not what I
aura,
want, but like yeah.
power, aura, yeah, your own
Yeah.
energy. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that takes, like we were just going back to the point of, you've got to kind of have your own shit a little bit together. You've got to kind of be clear on, maybe not checking the boxes like he has to have this kind of job, or, have
Mhm.
gone to school for this, like none of that external stuff, but to know within yourself as a projector where your boundaries are, what's important to you in a relationship, maybe knowing what your love language is, but really knowing like I want to feel valued or I want to feel like cherished. Maybe you want someone that's going to be very romantic. You could say, this is the side of me that I love and I appreciate. And the more you
Mhm.
love and appreciate those sides of yourself, it's more likely going to attract for you the kind of person that you're looking for. That's my
Mhm.
perspective. And so, um, yes. Now, manifestors, they're non sacral. So I shouldn't have said it. I think I said it wrong a minute ago. I'm going to clarify. They are non-sacral beings. There's going to be a variance there, but they are initiators. They can initiate. So the
Mhm.
if you are a manifestor, you can take the initiative if you were interested in someone. That's certainly you can something that you can certainly do.
Mhm.
Um, and then reflectors always, not always, all open centers, undefined centers. It is you're going to be sampling the room anyhow. You're going to be sampling
Mhm.
your environment. You're going to be coming in contact with a lot of people, but to before you start making those like deeper connections of if you really want to get into a relationship with someone to make sure that you give it that time, a
Mhm.
lunar cycle is the suggested amount of time in order to really kind of get a feel for it, feel how you see how you're feeling about things
Mhm.
throughout the month and just always staying open to that. Another thing for reflectors, which is a little bit different for them because they are different than all the other types, is to also make sure in your relationships that say you've chosen the relationship, it's there. Even in good relationships, it's good to make sure that you take time to yourself quite often because the reflector can tend to kind of lose themselves a little bit in relationships. I think this is true for open G's and in general,
Mhm.
but because they have all the openness in their chart and they're not um it's not like being a projector with a lot of openness. I mean, they're made for sampling the room and
Right.
feeling the energy in the room, but they also need now and then some time to themselves. Even they say traveling by themselves or taking a weekend away or whatever, where you're just not around anybody, so you can kind of tune back in with who you are
Mhm.
before you're getting out in relationships with people again.
Yeah.
But so those are the basics. Like type can help you first of all laying the foundation, but what's interesting is that when I started bringing human design to you, we started
Mhm.
talking about it. Uh, Presley was around too, and I was surprised he was listening.
He's
But I
always
found,
listening.
but then I found out a lot of his aim was like, this is very interesting. So tell me, how do I get Haley to be more like me?
That's exactly it.
And I was like, no, that's not what we're talking about here. Because yeah, he was a generator and he felt
Mhm.
like you as a projector. He didn't know you were a projector. You guys didn't know this, but you didn't seem to have the same energy levels, right?
Yeah, he didn't feel like I was on board as much with things that we were trying to do, or like
I thought
I
you
wouldn't
said
be
unboard. I was like, what kind of phrase you mean on board with
on board.
projects,
Yeah,
side
like
projects?
the same kind of like energy. Like he just didn't feel like I was on the same level as him, which I wasn't.
No, you weren't. Like I wasn't interested. And so it was interesting to me too to start digging around in the dynamics of your relationship because I was still learning a lot about
Hmm.
projectors and I've learned a lot through you um, because you are very much a projector, but then you're also, I think, the type of projector um, that a lot of projectors are. They are people who get stuff done, and they are energetic, and they don't shy away from activity. And
Hmm.
they're not wallflowers just sitting around on the couch all day waiting for life to happen to them. Like,
Hmm. We're not
you
all
know,
just on our fainting couches.
no, no. And a lot of times the traditional ideas of a projector like paints that picture, right? That you're just
Hmm.
these soft,
Meek.
fluffy people waiting for life to happen, which is
Yeah.
not true. And I got to see for me, the full picture of a projector of being these really dynamic people and very wise and very, um, I get this. I get this sense from you a lot of times, like you are like, to me, at least in my life, feel very steady and
Mm,
very grounded. And I think it's because your presence is, even though we can be goofy and all this other stuff,
mhm,
but like I said, I feel like the projectors that I know personally that I'm in relationship with are very good listeners, and you just take the time. And like when you're in a space with me or when you're in a space with people, like you're in that space, you know what I mean? Like
mhm,
you're there.
yep,
And I get that feeling from, most projectors that like I said, are friends of mine or whatever. And I guess it's that projectorness just
mhm,
getting right to
mm,
the heart of you. Like you guys are just like locked in when you're with other people. You're locked in, which is
mhm.
great because 50% of the planet is more like me. We're just very self focused. So true. But we're meant to be. Generator
Mhm,
types are
mhm,
meant to be self focused.
yep,
Okay. So, all right. So, projectors, type, all that stuff. We've got that worked out. I wanted to
mhm,
move on to kind of what is happening in a relationship, like electromagnetics, really, in a way, because we all know that we have our own definition, we have our own chart, right?
mhm,
We have
mhm,
all those gate activations. Some of those gates create channels, some of them are hanging gates. You have some centers defined, undefined. And really, this is the such interesting part of human design is looking at the centers and how um, they interact when people come together.
mhm,
And you can do like a relationship chart, which is a composite chart, which will take your information and someone else's and put it together, which I gave you a copy of yours and
mhm,
Presley's. And really like what happens when these two beings get in the same orbit with each other. And in human design, they'll talk about connection themes, which are quite hilarious. I still find them quite funny because they're like little rhymes. And what it's referring to
oh,
is we all
mhm,
have, what it's referring to is we all have 9 centers, energy centers, right?
mhm,
And we all come into the relationship with our own activations and our own definition. And then when we're together in relationship with someone, it creates, like I said, this composite chart, this combined energy. And you'll see that a lot of times when people come together, it creates a definition that they did not have on their own because we have these electromagnetic channels where you have one hanging gate, they have the other end of that channel hanging gate come together like a magnet. It's
mhm,
not so hard to
mhm,
understand, right? But it'll say that um, depending on what kind of definition is created when these two people come together, there's like these themes, and they're
mhm.
like 9 and 0, nowhere to go. That's a fun
Me and
one.
you.
Yeah, we do have a 9 and 0 relationship,
Mhm,
or which means that when you and I are together, our electromagnetics, but also we create definition in each other's charts so that all 9 centers are defined when we're together. They're not all 9 connected together. There's
nope.
still some bridging that needs to be done there, but we have full definition in that kind
Mhm,
of relationship. We'll say that's, he says nowhere to go because that means that there's not like a theme, an open center, and or an undefined center in this relationship where undefined centers would usually indicate areas where these people in relationship are going to be learning from each other because it's an undefined center. Those are usually the themes that are playing out in the relationship because it's
mhm,
variable. And so how does this person experience it? How does that experience? And if you have no undefined centers in your
mhm,
composite chart, it, but that's just a, it's just a rhyme. It's just
mhm.
an idea. It doesn't mean you're not going to learn anything from each other.
Right.
It's just not so obvious, maybe. And then they say
8 and 1,
8 and
8 and
1,
1.
have some fun.
Have some fun. Okay.
And so the have some fun thing. Okay, so so these rhymes are silly. But basically what it's referring to there is that, like I just said, there's one center that stays undefined even when the two of you are together. And so that means that it's pretty clear to see where there might be an exploration in the relationship. If it's
Mhm.
the and it's going to be an area where both of you are, because that would mean that you both have that center undefined in your natal charts, right? And
Mhm.
so it's something you're here to learn about anyhow, but that also means the other person is also in this life that they're learning about these things because they're undefined there. It's in relationships with other people. And so they may not learn it from each other in the sense that there's no electromagnetics there. It's not necessarily what drew them together, but they would both be open to some of those themes and how it plays out, and they can kind of explore it together. Have some
Mhm.
fun
Have
because
some fun.
it's not going in a bunch of different directions. It's kind of like their lessons are going to be kind of together, learned in the same kind of
Mhm.
arena in their lives.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Okay. Then they have the seven centers defined with two undefined. And that one is a little more serious. It's 7 and 2, work to do, which means it's the same really as just having one center. There's two.
Mhm.
However, this is work to do because it means that there could be one person might be focused on the themes more in one center and the other one that might be drawn more to this. And so it's
Mhm.
them having to kind of work out the relationships within themselves of there's just a little more areas that they could be
Mhm.
exploring together. 6 and 3, what does this say? 6 and 3, better to be free. Now,
Oh god.
according to human design or raw and human design, like this kind of relationship better to be free. I think all of these things I think are a little bit ridiculous because some of the things Raw said were just a bit ridiculous and they were coming
Eh.
from his filter, his experience in
Mhm.
life.
Mhm. Not the
Um
download.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know that this was in the download. This is experience. And if you think about that, the things I just said about where areas you focus, if there's three centers that aren't defined in relationship, it could be you're going in too many different directions,
Disastrous, apparently.
which is not true because your father and I have 6 and 3.
Oh.
We have three completely open centers. I know that there's a divine hand in everything because when I look at your father and I's chart, when we are together, we have three undefined centers that are all three completely open centers. So which is, I think, unusual. But we also, with the six centers we do have, single definition. So, like,
Mm.
we have all those open centers, but then also we
All your
are not
defined centers
split.
are connected.
All of them are. And
Mm.
those gates that I mentioned that are bridge gates for me, he has two of them, gate 1 and he
Mm.
has gate 20
Mm.
because he's
Yeah.
manifesting generator. Um, so these little rhymes, they're clever, but they're not necessarily like don't take
They're
any
not
of
hard
this.
facts.
Don't take any of this as hard facts or written in stone. This is
Yeah.
just guidance, places for you to look, but it's also like it's all an experiment. This is
Mhm.
all I should say right away, always. I should say it more often. Take what you want from this, but it's not a dogma. This is not a, you know, thing that you have to adhere to perfectly.
Mhm.
It's not like that. It's just here to help guide you. So it's
Yeah.
like take it or leave it. I'm not going to hurt my feelings. And then the last one, five centers defined, four undefined, five and four, not a relationship anymore.
Oh my gosh.
I think one of the things it said if somebody had those many centers open in a composite chart, like what brought these people together in the first place, it was kind of like there's, I don't know, maybe your parents set you up. Maybe you weren't like actually like drawn to each other. But anyway, so I just bring that up because when you look at a composite chart, you can see the openness. So I gave you yours and Presley's as an
Mhm.
example because you have questions sometimes, and there's certain ways that we are drawn together through the energetics in the chart, and it's whether we have electromagnetic channel connections, like we said, where electromagnetics is there's a channel, one person has one end of the channel, the other person has the other end of the channel. They meet and it creates definition. It's possible that one person has the gate on the one end in a defined center and the other one has the gate in an undefined center, it's going to definitely draw you two together. You're still
Mm-hmm.
going to there's going to be themes in your relationship based on those electromagnetic channels, but it can still be felt a little bit differently because one of you was undefined, one of you was defined.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
anyways, those are electromagnetic channels. Companionship channels would be if both of you have uh, a channel.
Mm.
So you guys do not have any companionship
No.
channels, but that's okay because they said usually companionship, it's called companionship because it would create kind of a more of a friendly feeling, or because
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing at play there. It's familiar energy for both of you. There's not really anything to like quote unquote learn there. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a very comfortable place to be. And that your father and I do have companionship channel, that 59.6. We both have it. So but I think it's unconscious in me, and I think half of it's unconscious in him too. So it's not even something I really think about that much. It's not like a big deal. And then there's the dominance channels, which sounds bad, but bear
I
with me.
think I understand what it means.
Yeah, what does it mean?
It's just I think it just means that one person has that channel and the other
Mm-hmm.
person doesn't. Because like I
Mm-hmm.
can see on ours, like it lists Presley's two channels according to his color and mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I reckon it's just ones that only one person has.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. He has channel struggle, and he has, which is 2838, and he has the 14.2. And then
Mm-hmm.
you have judgment 1858 and abstraction 6447. And dominance in this case doesn't mean like, because dominance has that connotation of like power over someone else, but it's really you get to just get the experience of those channels as that person. Like you understand what that energy feels like. Now, I have the 14 too as well, which is interesting that, Presley has it, I have it, but I'm sure it feels different between the two of us because we
Mm-hmm.
express it differently. You know what I mean? And I also, what I think is really cool here is they'll say, like, they say that if there's dominance channels, if you were to ask someone about their partner, a lot of times the attributes about them they might describe would actually probably be kind of attributes of that channel.
Mm.
So, like in Presley's case, the 14.2 is the beat, that's that um, sacral energy going to the G center, which is, um, I think, definitely in him, that is knowing how to use his sacral energy, has the direction he wants to go. There's like a lot of abundance and money and stuff in that channel.
Mm-hmm.
And also struggle can be a hard struggle, but it's also people who they have their values. They stand up for
Mm-hmm.
what they think's worth fighting for. Like even if it's hard, they'll stick to it. And that's,
Yep.
I mean, I mean,
That's him.
I know it's like if you were to describe or think of your, I say attributes, but things you admire maybe about your husband, they
Mm-hmm.
might, I don't know. I don't know. I think about this all the time. I'm like, why do people like me? Or why does your dad like, what is it about me? And then I'll try to think about, well, what is it about him that I admire or I think is
Mm-hmm.
certain traits about him?
Yeah.
And I am sorry. I feel like I just answered that for you and I didn't want to do that.
No, it was good because I mean those are exactly how I if someone asked, it's like that's how I would say it, but at the same time, that wasn't like what was coming to my brain. But when you
Yeah, I
say
mean,
it, I'm
it's not
like,
the
oh yeah,
only
that's
thing.
absolutely that.
It's not the only thing, but it's something that probably is more in him than in you. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have a feeling for it and you understand how it feels, but you wouldn't describe yourself that way. But you know what that kind of energy that he
Mm-hmm.
has, like who runs a 50K. You don't want to do it. You're like, I'll do a little
No.
bit, but I don't think I need to do like
It's like
turn my
I
I don't
don't
need to
need to do
turn my
that.
toes black and like or my nipples
Run for
off.
7 hours. No, I'm okay.
but
Yeah.
he's willing to do it. But
Mhm.
then also for you, the judgment and abstraction. So, like, you are definitely, I think, for the 64-47, you know, I don't know how he speaks about you to other people, but
I don't either.
you are, I would say he would probably, I know he describes you as like more in your head and thinking, he always thinks you're thinking about things that are like, you're always trying to, because you have all three head gates
Mhm.
defined, but you have that one channel. So you're always looking at things and pondering things and trying to make meaning. You're always trying to make meaning out
Mhm.
of things.
Mhm.
Like, what is that about? More than he does. He's just like, I don't have time to worry about that. He's got
I
61
have I have a prime
more.
example of this.
Okay.
So we make these overnight oats, and part of it is you put in banana cream pudding mix. And
Hmm.
I can only get it at Safeway, and but I've been shopping at Sprouts, which is kind of like a Whole Foods. And I noticed the other day, I was like, "Oh, they have banana pudding mix." And so I told him, I was like, "Oh, Sprouts has banana pudding mix." And I was like, "I wonder if it tastes any different than the banana cream pudding mix." He's like, "Why are you even thinking about this?" He's like, "Just buy the banana one, and if it's fine, then we keep using it, and if not, then we buy the banana cream." And I was like, I was just pondering.
You're thinking back to like, I've had the experience where I thought something should have been this way, but it wasn't. And then, but part of me is like, I think it would work. I just know it's probably right. But then there's also a part of me that's going, but what if I use it and it's
That's, like,
wrong? I wonder if it
exactly
could be
what
right.
happens in my head. It's exactly it.
All the questions all at once. Whereas, and you also, even though it may irritate, because these are also things that can, I think, be the things that also irritate you about your partner, these
Mhm,
areas where you might think he's just, sometimes he's just being contrary or maybe too doggedly in one direction or focus too much on
mhm,
work or all these other things, right? But it's also things that you admire in someone. And so your channel of judgment, whereas he doesn't necessarily want to aim at him unsolicited, but it
mhm,
also makes you very good at being able to, which I know he appreciates, of being able to, and your projecterness too, being able to see the big picture. I know you're quite often focusing him in a certain direction or
mhm,
saying, this part isn't necessary, this is necessary, like in that channel of judgment, because it's always looking for improvements and how to make things better, what you need, what you don't need, and keeping kind of focused on the goal in mind, which is the best it can be, I guess,
mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
um and so, and then the other channel, or excuse me, the other type of channel are compromise channels. And compromise channels is where you one person has the channel and the other person might have part of the channel. And so there's a
Mhm,
compromise there because you may understand how one gate functions, sort of, but when you're together, he is the one or they are the one who kind of, to me, feels like the word dominate keeps coming in my head here. They're the ones that the expression is really how they experience it. So
mhm,
it's like, to me, it feels more like a power struggle in the sense that, so like 61-24, you guys have this.
mhm,
It's that knowing circuit or that knowing head gate, knowingness there.
mhm,
And with his sacral energy, his instantaneous, like yes or no, and this is how his brain works is knowingness, right? So he doesn't
mhm,
really want to be questioned. He doesn't want to, and he's so certain about it. You have the 61, but you don't have the full channel. And so
mhm,
you have a little bit of less certainty, I think. And I think you've expressed that before,
mhm.
that it's just like,
It's like I'll know something, but then immediately I second guess it because 'cause I'm like, "But how?"
making the connections a little bit harder. Whereas he's just like, and I honestly, I think there's so many things that go into that besides just human design. I should have also pointed out at the beginning, like your conditioning and your lived experience
Mhm,
is one of the biggest influences on all of
mhm,
this, right? We could look at the pure mechanics of it, but you also have to look at where you're coming from, which again, why I said you should kind of be focusing on yourself
mhm,
more than before you get into relationships so you know yourself well enough. But anyways, Um, uh, oh, I tried to hurry
Knowingness.
up that thought so that I could get to the next one, and now I don't remember what it was.
We were talking about knowingness and upbringing, that his knowingness is more than just human design.
Uh-huh. Oh, yes, yes, yes. My point being that because you were doubting yourself, which,
Mhm,
gate 63 is gated out, but I think there's a lot of societal conditioning there as well.
mhm,
He's male, you're female. We
mhm.
aren't exactly or haven't been valued for our thoughts or encouraged to we're
Speak
made
our
to doubt
mind.
ourselves. Yeah, we're made to doubt
Mhm,
ourselves a lot. Whereas men, they're not raised that way. They're raised differently.
mhm,
And or they have been. Maybe we're moving away from that more, but I think I don't it was something Marianne Williamson always would say, and I know she got it from someone else's book. I can't remember who it is, but it said that in a let's say a boardroom situation or whatever, or any kind of situation where there's women are before they speak their mind, they try to within themselves feel that they mostly know, like they're 80% sure, like they know what they're talking about.
mhm.
Whereas men, it's like 20% of the time, they're not so concerned
Jesus.
with being sure because they're not used to being like doubted or made I'm sorry, just made to feel stupid or questioned or whatever that stuff.
Mhm.
We
Laughed at.
all that mansplaining the whole thing. But anyways, I digress. I didn't want to go there.
Mhm,
Not yet. Not today. So the compromise channel. So those are very powerful things at work is how these channels and these energetics are working within your relationship because
mhm,
if you can see that you could a lot of times be like, well, that's just the way it is. Now, I wanted to go back to the electromagnetic channels because you guys have three electromagnetic channels, right?
mhm,
And so you have the channel of power, which you have gate 34 in the sacral, and he has gate 57 in the spleen.
mhm, mhm,
And then you guys also have the channel of initiation is an electromagnetic. You have 25 in the G center. He has 51 in the will center. And then you have the channel of surrender. You have the channel 26 in the will center. He has the 44. And the way I think that plays out is that because he is a sacral being and you are not, you have the 34. That's the one gate. No, you have two gates. You have two
mhm,
gates in the sacral center. And he is a sacral generator. He is, see, his definition is what makes him a sacral generator. He is 14-2. That's it. G
mhm,
center to the uh, sacral to G center.
mhm,
And so that's one area where you two are drawn together. It gives you your sacral definition also
mhm,
with the dominance channel because he has that full channel, but that electromagnetic connection there. And that 57, now that's his unconscious son. So that's a strong
mhm,
expression of his is that gate 57, that gate of intuition. He already is someone who is sacrally defined. So he can act on the yes or no.
mhm,
And so when you are together, you're experiencing that sacral energy through the lens of his sacral energy, right? So
mhm,
um it's very intuitive because it's connecting to that 5734. I have that channel as well,
mm,
3457. Um, it's kind of your own personal power. It's interesting. Gate 34 is a gate of power and it's personal power, but then yours is like activated and felt like creates definition for you in the sacral through someone else's intuition, right? So it's like
mm.
even though you're getting that feel of the sacral energy and you can tap into it and use it, it's really ruled by his experiences. Does that resonate with you?
I'm I'm
I'm
trying to,
curious. I don't know if it's the truth or not. I'm just curious because like you may like do you I would say do you guys how you decide to do things or things you get involved in are they usually more led from his ideas or
mhm.
experiences or
Yeah, for the most part, in any kind of endeavor we've tried to do has been more at his lead, But I will say,
Mhm.
I actually brought something to him
Yeah.
recently.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
I said I wanted to go to the craft store after work one day because I wanted to start bullet journaling. And so
Mhm.
like we went together and I got some little stuff. I got a journal, a couple pins. And then like a couple days later, he's like on Amazon, he's ordered himself like a or he went to Office Depot and he found himself a little journal. And so like he started bullet journaling now too, and he really
Mhm.
likes it. And I was like, finally, something I brought to you.
Why did does he, has he said why he likes it?
I think he likes because of how freeform it is, how quick he can be with it, because it is. I think that's he always was trying to use different apps and all of this, but it was like it was too much and never what he wanted.
Mhm.
Whereas with this bullet journal, he can literally make it however he wants.
Yeah, they can. I tried bullet journaling.
It's
I
fun.
lost focus.
I'm keeping it pretty like minimal and not like over the top. I got some washi tape, so I have like a
I
little bit
know.
of things
It's
that
so
I
fun.
dress up the pages a little bit but for the most part, keeping it pretty simple. It's
Mhm.
good. I recommend. But
No. No, that's good, and, I would say, um I mean, it's not necessarily an electromagnetic thing,
no.
but it's, no, it is like it's I would just I guess the way I am or seeing it is that the sacred the sacred sacral energy that you tap into the most around him and helps you create I mean, they both help create definition in you because like you said, the one's a dominance channel, so it's like
Mhm.
I would say that aspect of your relationship around work and money and knowing what to do is definitely um in his wheelhouse. Like
Mhm.
he's pretty focused, like he knows where he's going most of the time.
Yeah.
um and but as far as kind of like the 3457 to me is it's kind of that primal energy of survival, of like knowing what it takes to survive and
Mhm.
how to use your personal power in the moment. It's like it gives there's lots of places the 34 can go in the
Mhm.
chart, but it for you it's going to connect up into the intuition, so it is kind of just intuitively knowing like how to move and what to do. And I think about like when you guys are like out hiking together or skiing or just out about in the world physically.
Mhm.
There's with the two of you together, not that you can't do it on your own, but it may be a little bit more, you might be a little more energized and a little more like um almost, I don't want to say confident, that's not the right word, but just kind of I can't find words for what I'm trying to say, so I'll just try to stop so I don't try to belabor the point. But I also want to point out the electromagnetic connection between the 25 and the 51, because 51, gate of shock, but that's ambition. There's a lot of ambition in that, is not
Mhm.
ambition, competition. It's like this drive to be number one, to be the best, to excel stuff, because it's the ego. It's you have the 25, the other side of it, which is
Mhm.
in the G center, which is reminding you of why you're striving in competition. It's the love of spirit of the self. So it's like connecting to a higher, knowing that you're connected to a higher power, higher source, whatever. It's like kind of more spiritually guided in my mind. And so I think that that helps, that electromagnetic in your relationship kind of, and it also, that kind of electromagnetic in your relationship helps him keep his competitiveness and everything maybe focused in the right direction, knowing that it's not just blind, like
Yeah,
I got to be
it's
the best and I got to do everything. Like you
mm,
help pull him back into what's the
I
bigger picture.
there's like we were when we were at a ski resort a couple weekends ago, we were
Hmm.
talking at a bar and he said like I don't think I have the chip on my shoulder anymore. And
Oh.
thinking of that now, I'm like, was that my influence of that gate that like
Hmm.
has brought him to that point?
Hmm. What chip? Like, what does he?
Just like, I mean, from his
Like to prove
upbringing and
something?
just yeah, just
Mhm.
he felt like he always had I mean, he still does. He still
Yeah,
wants
he's
to
never
be
gonna he's got so much ambition and drive and
yeah.
everything in his chart. He's never gonna stop. Yeah.
Yeah, but he says specifically, he's like, "I don't have that chip on my shoulder anymore." Like, he
Yeah,
doesn't feel like he has to prove that.
he's not coming from a place of yeah, I see what you're saying of like
Mhm.
having to prove that I can do it and
Yeah.
everything. Like he's done it and you help keep him. So that's looking through your channels. And if we take it back out to the wider audience now, just some other things to consider. I think is a big one in relationships, and I think this works out in your relationship too, is since we were talking about channels, where your definition is in your chart. Is it predominantly in individual circuitry, tribal circuitry, or collective circuitry? Which we know your husband is one of the most individually defined people that I have seen besides my husband and myself. I'm actually more than your dad. And I mean, I have seen others, but there's people I know. Tons of individual circuitry.
Mhm.
Yours is a pretty good mix of collective on both sides. You do have some, you really don't have a lot of individual
Mm-mm.
circuitry. No, you
I
really
think it
don't.
goes collective and
You've
then
got like
tribal.
two gates.
Yeah, not much.
You've got two individual gates. Everything else is like collective. Oh, three. You got another one. And his a lot of and so what in a relationship that makes it and he's a 1-3 and he's sacral and all these things, right? And so it can tend to make people with individual circuitry are much more self-focused because they're meant to be that way. They're meant to be that mutating force in the collective. So they are going to kind of do things their way. They're going to
Mhm.
really be focused on only what's important to them, which we know your husband is.
Mhm.
And I know that's a bone of contention between you two sometimes from your perspective and from his, because you're very much focused on the big picture,
Mhm.
the group dynamics, the whole, not even, I mean, you do have some tribal, yes,
Mhm.
but and he has a little, he's not all individual,
Mhm.
but yeah, so that can kind of be like where the focus is in each person can
Mhm.
be, which is another reason I think your dad and I work is because I have a lot of individual, he has a lot of individual. And so, like I said, we can create that single definition when we're together. We have the same open centers. So there's not like a lot of friction there.
Mhm.
But we also have the same kind of tribal gates too. So, I mean, I guess we have a lot of companionship, but we also have a lot of electromagnetic. So I guess this will make it last for 35 years. Plus one of us is really into like personal development and trying to figure out why a relationship works. So maybe if I wasn't, it maybe not work out so great. There was one other thing I wanted to. I can't remember what to see. What was it? Oh, I also wanted to say that for you guys in particular, your two centers that stay undefined is the throat
Mhm.
center and the emotional solar plexus.
Mhm.
And you always said that Presley made you feel kind of safe and
Mhm.
said because he has a defined G center, and you get that through that um, dominant channel. So there's not really a conflict there for you with that. As far as a power struggle, you do have electromagnetics that also connect to the G center,
Mhm.
but it's interesting that your solar plexus is both stay open because that's more of on the more unusual side because I say a lot of times there may be
Mm.
one undefined in the relationship, but a lot of times electromagnetics would create definition, like because
Yeah.
usually,
'Cause, I mean, it's like 50-50 on who's defined, right, for
right,
the
yeah,
solar
and a lot of
plexus.
times there is, but I think in this case it's the G center that is what gets defined in your relationship between the two of you. Oh, and the sacral. And I don't think it's a bad thing. And then what's interesting is that you guys both, even though it's undefined, you both have gate 37. That's one of the he has another gate. He has gate 22 defined in
Mm.
the
Mhm.
solar plexus, but you both have 37. So I was just thinking that it's interesting that when you guys do get definition, whether through transits or around other people, a lot of times it may be in that in that tribal circuitry, the 37, or lots of different ways you could get it. But I think it's interesting that just between the two of you, oh, the end of this month, the end of February, we're going to be transiting 37, and then sun will be in 37, the Earth will be in 40. So
Ooh.
check out the end of the month. Might feel a little more emotional at the end of the month. So just pay
Mm.
attention to that. See if that's true. Don't make it happen. But or let's see, isn't there no, that's it. You oh no, actually starting tomorrow, you've got gate 49
I was about
starting
to
to
say because
transit.
I remember when we did the transit episode, I was gonna have a lot of definition in February.
Yeah, so watch out for the last of the month. The second half of this month, you might be a little more emotional. Doesn't mean that you're always that way. You just might feel that way. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Y'all.
so probably should wrap it up. There's we've covered a lot, and I can't give you all the answers to your relationship in one moment. I mean, you you guys have been together 10 years. I've known about human design as applied to your relationship with you two in particular for going on 5 years now, and we're still
Mhm.
finding new things. I'm still finding new things about myself and about my relationship with your dad, and it's just
Mhm.
like always evolving,
Yeah.
and which can make me feel insecure at sometimes when I'm talking about this stuff because my understanding deepens or you change as people and things start
Mhm.
expressing in different ways, and there's no like hard and fast one way of looking at things, but I think we presented here just some places that you could consider as far as dynamics that could be happening in your relationship, but underlying all of that, no matter what I've said today, which I can't remember what I said today. Sorry. I'm just trying to flow with it today. Is that knowing yourself is going to be your
Mhm.
best asset in your relationships,
Mhm.
any and all relationships. The more you understand yourself and where you're coming from and how you are going to be impacted by people around you, possibly not exactly, but possibilities, it helps you navigate these challenges. And your human design can show you ways to possibly do that to help you improve that. I mean, it has
Mhm.
for me, and I think it
Mhm.
has for you. So
Yeah. Mhm.
so we'll just leave that there. And
Yeah.
even though Haley and I don't actively celebrate Happy Valentine's Day,
To those who celebrate, enjoy.
enjoy. For me, it would just be an excuse. But as I say, to get a meal out of it, but nobody wants to go out on Valentine's Day.
No.
Excuse me, I don't want to go out on Valentine's Day.
Mm-mm.
You pay like twice as much at any restaurant you go to because it's a Valentine's menu, and that's
Mhm.
God, whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, this year, Presley will actually be out of town.
It's the best kind of Valentine's Haley can ever her own little Valentine's Day. Yay. You and a book and your
Bailey.
dog. Like, you're so happy. Maybe get crazy and do a little crocheting.
Ooh.
We'll see. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. We always
Mhm,
have to
mhm.
wrap up with our special segment. Take it away, Haley. Do you know what time it is?
The incarnation cross of the week.
Yes, that is correct. Time for the
Yes.
incarnation cross of the week, a segment we try to remember to do every week.
E-
But in human design, your incarnation cross is the theme that's present in your design, in your life, and it's based or it's comprised of the energies of the sun and earth gates on both sides of your chart, your
Mhm,
personality and design side of the chart. And in human design, there's 192 crosses. We try to shine a light on one every episode. And that's all I'm going to say about that for now today. But today we have the right angle cross of penetration 4.
Ooh.
So, right angle, it's a
It's a profile that starts with a 1, 2, 3, or a 4 1.
nope, 4 6.
4 6. Dang it. No, that's
4,
right, because 4 1's a juxtaposition. Dang it.
that's
I
right.
thought I had it.
And then the 4 means is, yeah, happening in a later
In the
quarter,
fourth
fourth
quarter
quarter.
of the human design year.
Yes. And
Yes.
so this cross consists of in the on the personality side of the chart, the red number or the right side of the chart, black numbers. The sun is in gate 54, ambition, and the earth is in gate 53, beginnings. Then on the left side of the chart, the red, the unconscious or design side of the chart, the sun is in gate 57, intuition, and the earth is in gate 51, shock.
So we have
Shock and awe.
ambition, beginnings, intuition, and shock. Sounds like a
Correct.
pretty loaded one.
Sounds like it. Okay, so if you were born under the right angle cross of penetration 4, you came into this world with a powerful drive to be seen, not for validation, but because recognition is the key that unlocks your unique path. Deep down, you're here to expand, to evolve, and to open doors, not just for yourself, but for others. When you align with that truth, opportunities flow naturally, and your presence becomes a catalyst for transformation. Your gift lies in intuition and insight. You see through illusions, helping others recognize their own potential and reconnect with what's real. You don't impose answers, you spark the right questions, guiding people back to their own inner knowing. Through your journey of seeking clarity and truth, you illuminate the way for those ready to step into their own power. By embracing your role as a guide and a visionary, you create ripples of opportunity, inspiration, and alignment. Your presence invites others to trust themselves, break free from limitations, and step fully into the life they were meant to live. Ooh. Mm. How's that sound?
Another good one.
Another good one. That wraps it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all we have for today. And just want to remind you once again to make sure you are heading over to Substack if you're not already watching us there on Substack to check out the podcast. That's our new home over there where you can join the Human Design Hive uh, newsletter. You can subscribe. We also now have a paid tier uh, on the membership, calling it. What that's going to get for you, you can still subscribe for free, and you will get to your inbox every week these podcast episodes plus the transit update emails. And with this new level of membership here, we're going to be doing at least one monthly call every week, a live call that you can join. After February, this is going to be just for the paid subscribers, but for this month, we're going to do it on February 26th. And I'm thinking it's probably going to be around the time we normally record, Haley and I. So that would be around, we might do a little bit later, I haven't decided yet, either 5 or
Mm-hmm.
6 Eastern. But it'll be a Zoom call that we would invite you to do. And my idea really is that we will hold these towards the end of the month, that we can focus on those calls, this one particular call, on things we talked about this month on the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
things you might have had questions about in your own chart or you're just curious about, that you can hop on a call live with us and ask your questions. So I'm really excited about that. Plus there's some other perks there, so make sure you check that out on the Substack page. Links are in the show notes, and yeah, lots of things in the show notes, so go ahead and check them out. All right, we've said enough. It's time to go. Haley, I love you. Everybody out there listening, we love you. Have a
Mm-hmm.
great Valentine's Day, and until next time, bye for now, Haley.
Bye.
You made it all the way to the end of today's episode, so you must have liked what you heard. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and perhaps leave us a good review. And if you know someone who wants to dig into all things human design with us, make sure you share the Human Design Hive podcast with them. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening.